The alien bazaar smelled of rust, oil, and sadness. Creatures from across the stars shouted, bargained, and shoved past each other. Cages lined the walkways, filled with slaves, some crying, some silent, some too broken to move in the last. Cage stood a tall woman with silver skin and glowing orange eyes. Her muscles were strong, her face hard, but her eyes were empty like a long-forgotten battlefield. She wore armor that had once been proud, now torn and stained. She was an Amazon. Warrior from the war planet Virexa. Captured, beaten, sold. No one wanted her. The merchants warned every buyer. She killed 3 owners already. Too proud, said one alien. Too dangerous, said another. Some threw stones at her. She didn't flinch. She stood like a statue, silent, still, waiting for nothing. Then a human walked in. He looked small, soft, and completely out of place. His clothes were simple, and his eyes full of wonder. His name was Eli. He wasn't a soldier, not a rich trader, just a traveler. People laughed when he stepped near the cages. One alien whispered, "He'll wet himself when he sees her." But Eli didn't laugh. He stopped in front of her cage and looked into her eyes. She stared back, expecting fear or disgust. Instead, she saw something else. He didn't look away. He didn't mock her. He simply asked the merchant, "How much for her?" The crowd gasped. The merchant blinked, confused. "She'll kill you, human," he warned. "I'll take the risk." Eli said quietly. He handed over credits, signed the paper, and unlocked the cage. The warrior didn't move. She waited for an order, a command, a chain. Eli stepped back and held out a small bottle of water. "Here," he said. "You must be thirsty." Still, she didn't move. "Drink," he said, gently. "You're not a prisoner anymore." That word "not" a prisoner hit her like a shock. Slowly, she took the bottle and drank. Every eye in the market watched, silent and confused. The human had freed a killer and smiled like it was nothing. "Come with me," Eli said softly, and turned. She followed. Unsure why, but she followed, not like a slave, but like someone curious about a strange dream. They walked through the dusty roads and left the market behind. Eli didn't speak much. He led her to a small shiphold, patched but working. He opened the door and said, "You can rest here." She stood near the doorway, not stepping in. "Not sure what this meant," Eli added. "If you want to leave, you can. But I hope you'll stay." He walked away, giving her space. That night, she sat in the corner of the ship, not sleeping. She watched him cook food, hum to himself, and never look at her like property. When he offered her a plate, she took it. Slowly, suspicious, still, she ate. He didn't ask her questions, didn't demand her name. He just said, "I'll call you Arca. It means dawn on Earth." She didn't reply, but her eyes flickered. When Eli slept, she stayed awake. Her body didn't trust this peace. Her hand stayed close to her belt, ready to strike. But deep inside, something was changing. This wasn't how captors behaved. This wasn't how enemies treated warriors. He bought her, but didn't own her. He gave her water, food, and a name, and that confused her more than pain ever did. By morning, she was still awake. Eli opened his eyes and smiled. "Morning, Arca." She looked at him for a long time, then nodded just once. It wasn't much, but it was a start far away in the darkness of space. Someone was watching the transaction logs. An old enemy saw the Amazons. Name flash on a report. His lips curled into a smile. "So she lives," he whispered. He turned to his crew. "Set course. We have a ghost to bury." Back on the ship, Arca stood at the window, staring into the stars. She didn't know it yet, but the choice she made to follow a human was about to shake the galaxy, and Eli, the quiet man who bought her, had just become part of something far bigger than he could imagine. Arca did not kneel, not to kings, not to captains, not even to the stars, and she would not kneel to a human, even if he had bought her from the chains, even if he had given her food, water, and a name. She followed Eli through the ship, always one step behind, like a shadow with sharp eyes and a silent tongue. Eli never ordered her, never shouted, never touched her without asking. Still, Arka stayed alert. She had lived too long in a world where kindness was a mask for pain. She had seen smiling faces. Hide knives she had trusted once and paid for it in blood and chains. Eli worked on the ship's engine, fixed wiring, cooked simple meals. Sometimes he hummed old Earth songs while cleaning. He talked to her like she was a person, not a machine. He told stories about Eartha, about dogs, trees, oceans, and books. Arka said nothing, only listened. But her eyes softened when he spoke of rain. She had never seen rain before. One morning, Eli found her outside the ship, standing under the false sunlight of the docking bay. She was practicing slow movements, old warrior drills from Virexa. Her arms cut the air like blades. Her feet moved with silent strength. She did not notice Eli watching until he clapped gently and said, "You move like a storm." Arka turned quickly. Face hard again. "Why do you keep talking to me?" She asked for the first time. Eli paused, then said, "Because you're the only person here." "I'm not your person," she said sharply. Eli nodded. "No, you're not." He didn't argue, didn't explain, just smiled and walked away. That confused her more than anything. Later that day, Eli handed her a datapad. "I thought you might want to read," he said. She stared at it like it was a weapon. But when he left the room, she opened it. Pages of human history, stories of war, freedom, and struggle filled the screen. And one story caught her attention, about a soldier who disobeyed a cruel order. To save innocent lives, she read it twice, maybe 3 times. The next evening, she joined him at the small table for dinner. She didn't speak, just sat and ate in silence. Eli didn't say anything either. They ate like old soldiers after a long day, quiet, tired, but side by side. It was strange, but peaceful. For Arka, that peace felt like a soft ache she didn't know she needed. But her heart still held fire. She couldn't forget who she was. Late one night, she asked him, "Why did you buy me?" Eli looked at her and answered slowly, "Because no one else saw you. I saw strength, not just chains. And I thought, maybe you needed someone who wouldn't use you." She didn't reply, just looked away. But her hands, always ready to fight, finally unclenched. That week, they traveled to a border moon. Eli needed parts, and Arka insisted on going with him. He gave her a long coat to hide her armor and scars. At the trading post, people stared at her, some in fear, some in awe. One alien laughed and said to Eli, "Nice pet, human." Before Eli could answer, Arka stepped forward and growled, "I am no pet." The alien backed off quickly. Eli didn't scold her. He simply whispered, "Thanks for not killing him." Arka smirked for the first time, a small strange expression, but real. On their way back to the ship, Eli tripped on a loose panel. He fell hard, scraping his arm. Before he could react, Arka was at his side, pulling him up, her hands, built for war, touched him gently. "You should be more careful," she said. He laughed. "I've got you watching my back. I'll be fine." She looked away, hiding something in her eyes. That night, she sat closer to him as he told stories. And when he fell asleep, she didn't watch him like a guard. She watched him like someone afraid of losing something rare. Somewhere inside her, the walls were cracking. Not from force, but from quiet, patient care. She still didn't kneel. But she stayed, and that was more powerful than any command. Far across the galaxy, however, dark eyes watched her image on a screen. An enemy commander, old and cruel, slammed his fist on the table. "She escaped," he said, "but not for long." He sent a message to his fleet. "Track the Earthling ship. Bring her back dead or alive." But Arka didn't know that yet. She only knew that a human had seen her, not as a weapon. Not as property, but as a person. And for the first time in many years, she wanted to be seen again. Arka stood in the center of the small training room. Sweat dripped down her face as she practiced old Virexan battle forms. Her arms moved with perfect control, but her mind was a storm. Each motion pulled a memory from deep inside her. A scream. A fire. A name long lost in blood. Eli sat nearby, quietly watching. He didn't interrupt. Just sipped his tea and let her be. She liked that about him. He never forced her to speak. But that day, something inside her cracked. She turned to him and asked, "Do you want to know what I did?" Eli looked up and replied, "Only if you want to tell me." Arka sat down across from him, her voice low. "I was a captain on Virexa," she began. "Feared, respected, undefeated. I followed orders, fought battles, brought victory." Eli listened, silent and still. Arka continued. "Then we were told to destroy a colony. It was small children. Elders, no soldiers. I refused." Her voice trembled. "They called me a traitor. My own people attacked me, drugged me, chained me, and sold me to slavers." Eli's hands clenched around his cup, but his voice stayed calm. "You made the right choice." Arka laughed bitterly. "The right choice made me a slave. I lost everything, my crew, my honor, my name." "You still have your name," Eli said softly. She looked at him, confused. "You're Arka now," he continued. "The one who chose mercy over orders. The one who saved a traveler from being robbed. The one who's free." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then she asked, "Why do you always believe in people?" "Because someone once believed in me," he answered. Arka didn't ask more, but her heart felt heavy, like old chains still wrapped around it. Later that day, Eli showed her something New Earth books. He handed her one with a red cover. "It's about a soldier who ran from war, but found peace in helping others." Arka read slowly, each page like a mirror. The words dug into her soul. That night, she asked for another book, and then another. As days passed, she started speaking more, not a lot, but enough to share pieces of her old life. She told him about her first battle, about a friend who died in her arms, about songs from her homeworld, sung before war swallowed everything. One evening, Eli gave her something strange, a brush and paint. She stared at it, unsure. "I thought maybe you'd like to try," he said. "It helps me think." She sat near the wall and began painting shapes, at first just lines, then memories, a ship in flames, a friend smiling, a mountain under two suns. Her hand shook, but she kept painting. Eli watched quietly, never judging. It was her first piece of art, and it looked raw, wild, full of pain and healing. The next day, they landed on a peaceful trade station to refuel. Eli went out to buy supplies. Arka stayed back, watching the screens. But then something caught her eye, a transmission, encrypted, short, but clear. "Target located, human ship confirmed. Prepare capture." Her blood froze. They had found her. She grabbed a blaster and ran out. Heart racing, Eli was walking back, a bag of tools in his hand. She tackled into the ground just as a plasma bolt flew past his head. He stared in shock as Arka fired back, hitting one attacker. More were coming, mercenaries in black armor. Trained and fast, Arka dragged Eli behind cover. "You were followed?" She shouted. "No," he said. "You were," she cursed under her breath. 2 more blasts tore through the air. Arka rolled out, firing with deadly precision. She moved like a storm, silent, swift, and powerful. Eli could only watch in awe and fear. When the last mercenary fell, she turned to him. Her face was hard again, but her eyes were full of worry. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "Just my pride," he joked, trying to stand. She helped him up, her grip firm. "We need to leave," she said. "Now." Back on the ship, Arka checked the nav systems. "They'll keep coming," she said. "They won't stop." Eli nodded. "Then we fight." She looked at him, surprised. "You still want me here?" "You saved my life," he said. "Of course I do." That night, Arka didn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring into space. The past was catching up with her, and this time she wasn't alone. Her heart ached not from pain, but from the weight of something new, hope, and fear of losing it. The ship flew quietly through deep space. Stars blinked around them like old memories. Inside, Arka stood by the control panel, scanning for threats. Eli sat nearby, looking through repair logs. But both knew the silence wouldn't last. The enemy was close. She could feel it in her bones. "They're not just hunters," Arka said suddenly. "They're ghost trackers." Eli looked up, confused. "They're paid killers," she explained. "They hunt people like me, warriors who broke the code. They don't stop," Eli frowned. "But why now?" Arka answered, "Because I'm not hiding anymore. Because someone saw me, cared. And they hate that." The ship's alarm beeped. A small red dot appeared on the radar. Not close but coming fast, she checked the ID signature. Her face tightening. "It's him," she whispered. "Who?" Eli asked, standing quickly. "Commander Solus," she said. "He was my mentor, and the one who sold me." Eli clenched his fists. "What does he want now?" Arka looked at him, her eyes sharp. "He wants to erase me," she said. "And anyone who stands with me." They had hours, maybe less. Arka began preparing for battle. She opened a secret locker, pulling out weapons from her old days, blades shaped like wings, a pulse rifle marked with her clan's crest. Eli helped her set traps around the ship, wires, shields, remote mines, all simple, but smart. "I never trained for war," Eli said quietly. "You don't need to," Arka replied. "You train for kindness, that's rarer." She taught him quick moves, how to duck, when to fire, where to aim, but deep down, Eli knew he couldn't fight like her. He would protect her in his own way by standing his ground, by not running away. As they worked, memories flooded Arka's mind. She remembered her first mission with Solus. He had called her his finest blade, told her she would lead the future. Then one order changed everything. "Burn the colony," he had said. And when she refused, he turned on her without a second thought. Now he was coming to finish what he started. But Arka wasn't that same broken warrior anymore. She wasn't alone this time. The enemy ship arrived just past moonfall. It was massive, black like shadow, armed with tracking beams and disruptors. Arka stood at the ship's entrance, weapon in hand. Eli stood beside her with a shield generator in his backpack. "We don't need to win," she said. "Just survive." He nodded. Together, the first wave hit them fast, 2 drones and 1 cyber soldier. Arka moved like lightning, slicing through metal. Eli used his tools to jam signals and drop traps. The hallway echoed with noise blasts, grunts, sparks, but they held the line. For every attacker, Arka grew stronger. Her body remembered war, but now it had purpose, not just rage. Then Solus entered. Tall, calm, and cruel. His armor was gold, shining with stolen pride. "Arka," he said, voice cold. "You should have stayed dead." She stepped forward, her voice firm. "You should have stayed honorable," he smirked. "The galaxy forgot you." "No," Eli said, stepping beside her. "We didn't." Solus raised his hand, launching the strike. Arka blocked it, blade clashing with his staff. Their fight was fast and brutal, 2 masters meeting after years of betrayal. Arka bled, but she didn't fall. Solus roared, striking hard. But she caught his weapon mid-air, twisted, and slammed him down. "Why protect a human?" Solus spat. "Because he gave me what you never did," she growled. "Respect." With one final blow, she knocked him out. Not killed, just defeated. "I won't be like you," she whispered. The fight was over. Their ship was damaged, but still standing. Eli patched her wounds in silence. Arka leaned back, tired but alive. "You could have run," she said. "I don't run from people I care about," he replied. She looked at him, her face softening. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Arka sat outside the ship, looking at the stars. She wasn't afraid anymore. The past had chased her, hunted her, tried to silence her, but she stood tall, and now she had something the hunters never expected: hope. The ship drifted near a quiet planet called Ellerin 4. Its skies were blue, its forests green, and its people peaceful. Eli had chosen this place to rest and repair the damage from the last battle. Arka had agreed, but something in her heart felt uneasy. She knew peace never stayed long when war followed close behind. They landed near a village hidden in the trees. The locals were kind, offering food and shelter without asking questions. For the first time in days, Arka walked without armor. Children ran past her, laughing, not knowing who she was. She watched them play, their smiles like forgotten memories. Do they even know what war is? She whispered. Eli stood beside her and replied, "They don't need to, but peace is a fragile thing." That night, a ship entered orbit, black, silent, and deadly. Arka felt it before the sensors picked it up. Her hands tightened, her breath slowed. "They found us again," she said. Eli checked the scanner. "It's not just Solus this time. It's a full strike unit. They want you gone for good." "We can't fight them alone," Arka said. Eli looked at her, calm and steady. "Then we don't fight alone." He called the village elders. He explained who Arka was, what they were facing. Some were scared, some angry, but one old woman stepped forward. "We are not soldiers," she said, "but we will not let darkness destroy our home." Arka helped them prepare. She taught the young how to move quietly. She placed traps in the trees and taught others how to shoot. Eli set up force fields using scraps and wires together. They turned a peaceful village into a shielded home. That night, Arka sat near a fire. Sharpening her blade, Eli handed her a piece of fruit and said, "You don't have to fight every battle." She looked at him and answered, "I don't fight to win anymore. I fight to protect." The next morning, the enemy came. Dozens of troops dropped from the sky, moving like shadows. Their weapons were advanced, their armor heavy. They expected a simple strike, one target, one kill. They were wrong. The first traps exploded, shaking the trees. Villagers fired from hidden spots. Eli directed power to the shields. Shouting over the combs, Arka led from the front. Her blade flashing in the sunlight, she moved like fire, each strike fierce, each step certain. Solus appeared again, leading the charge. He spotted Arka and yelled, "This ends today." She didn't answer with words, only steel. They clashed in the center of the village, surrounded by chaos. Eli watched from above, guiding others, his hands flying over controls. His tools became weapons, his mind a shield. The fight between Arka and Solus was brutal. He was faster, but she was wiser. He shouted orders, but she listened to her heart. When he tried to use the villagers as shields, she blocked him. When he tried to run, she cornered him. "You lost the day you betrayed your own," she said. With one powerful strike, she broke his weapon. And with the other, she let him fall, alive but defeated. The rest of his troops fled. Confused and leaderless, the battle ended with smoke, but not with death. The village stood strong. The people had fought back, and Arka had protected more than just herself this time. After the dust settled, Eli found her sitting under a tree, blood on her armor, but peace in her eyes. He sat beside her, silent for a while. Then he said, "You didn't just fight. You led." She looked at him and replied, "I used to fight to survive. Now I fight to give others the chance to live." That night, the village held a quiet celebration. No big speeches, no bright lights, just small fires, soft songs, and thankful hearts. Children ran to Arka and handed her flowers. She took them, unsure what to do. Eli smiled and said, "You just say thank you." She did, softly but truly. In the stars above, news began to spread. Not just about a warrior who fought, but about a human and an Amazon who stood together and changed the meaning of strength. The battle was over, but the story of the warrior and the human had just begun. News traveled fast across the stars. Whispers became stories, and stories became legends. People spoke of the Amazon warrior who protected the weak, of the Earthling who stood beside her without fear. Together, they had done something rare. They had won without hate. Arka stayed in the village for a few days. She helped rebuild the damaged houses, repaired broken shields. Children followed her everywhere, asking about swords and space battles. She smiled more now, not wide, but real. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, peace that didn't feel fake. Eli watched her from a distance. He knew she was changing, and he respected it. One morning, he found her sitting under a tree, sharpening her blade. but her hands moved slower now, as if they were thinking too. He sat beside her and asked, "What's next for you?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I want to do more, not fight, help." Eli nodded. "Then let's help." They left Eller and 4 in their ship. Not to hide, not to run, but to search. They found other places where people were hurting, slaves, refugees, broken warriors, and everywhere they went, Arka stood strong and proud, not as a weapon, not as a servant, but as a free warrior. Word spread. More people joined them. A tech engineer from Gornies 3, a medic from Earth, even an ex-soldier who once hunted people like Arka. They didn't come for money. They came because they believed in something different, strength with kindness, justice without cruelty. Soon they had a fleet, small, messy, but full of heart. They called themselves the Ember Circle, because from burned lives, they were building new fire. Arka led the missions, Eli guided the team, and together they gave hope to those who thought they were forgotten. One day, a message came from a mining colony in danger. Pirates had taken control, forcing children to work in tunnels. Arka's eyes burned with anger. She stood and said, "No more," Eli replied. "Let's bring them home." They arrived at night. The pirates laughed when they saw a single ship. But then more ships came, quiet, hidden, ready. The Ember Circle struck fast and smart. Arka led the charge, her blade glowing under the mining lights. She moved like a ghost through the shadows, freeing the children, disabling the guards. Not one child was hurt. When the last pirate surrendered, Arka stood above him and said, "You will never touch the innocent again." The colony cheered. People cried and hugged their families, and for the first time, they chanted Arka's name, not as fear, but as hope. Arka the Free. They called her Protector of the Lost. That night, she sat quietly outside the colony walls. Eli joined her, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. She looked at him and asked, "Do you think I've changed?" He smiled. "No, you've just remembered who you really are." She looked up at the stars. So many battles, so many scars, but also so many people still waiting to be helped. Her heart felt heavy, but full. "I used to fight to survive," she said. "Now I fight to give others a chance to live." Eli raised his cup. "To freedom." She raised hers. "To choice." Somewhere in the galaxy, leaders began to notice. Old generals felt threatened. Crime lords grew nervous, but the people believed. They finally had a symbol, not of fear, not of empire, but of power used the right way. And at the center of it all was a warrior once sold in chains, now walking freely, now leading others to break their chains too. She was no longer just Arka, the Amazon. She was Arka the Free, the warrior who rose from pain and chose a different path, a path that would lead to the edge of stars and beyond. Many years passed, but the name Arka the Free did not fade. It spread across planets, stations, and hidden colonies. Children grew up hearing her stories about the Amazon warrior who broke her chains, and the human who gave her a gift, freedom. On Earth, in schools and books, her name became part of lessons. "Kindness is strength," they wrote. "Honor is louder than fear." Arka never asked for fame. She just kept helping people, one mission at a time. Eli stayed by her side through every storm. He fixed ships, built homes, and offered hope. To those who had none, their bond was quiet, deep, and real. They didn't need to speak it. People could see it in their eyes, in the way they moved together, trusted each other, stood back to back in battle and shoulder to shoulder in peace. One day, a message came from the Galactic Assembly, an invitation to speak. The galaxy had seen the rise of the Ember Circle, and now they wanted to listen. At first, didn't want to go. She wasn't a politician or a ruler. She was a warrior. But Eli said, "Sometimes words can cut deeper than any blade." So they went. The grand chamber of the assembly was filled with leaders from hundreds of worlds. Some looked at her with fear, others with respect. Arka walked in wearing her armor, not as a threat, but as a symbol, not of war, but of the scars she carried proudly. She stood before them and said only a few words. I was once sold as a weapon. I was once treated as a thing. But one human gave me something no one else ever did. Choice. And because of that, I found strength not to destroy, but to protect. We can all choose better. Not just for ourselves, but for others. The room was silent, and then came a wave of quiet claps, then louder, until the chamber echoed with thunder. That moment changed everything. After the speech, laws began to shift. Slave markets were shut down. War contracts were questioned. And new alliances formed, not with fear, but with understanding. Arka returned to her ship quietly. She didn't want praise or statues. She just wanted to keep moving forward, helping the next lost soul, breaking the next chain. One evening, she stood on a cliff overlooking a peaceful lake on a distant planet. Eli stood beside her, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. He asked, "Do you ever miss your old life?" She thought for a moment and said, "No, but I remember it." Eli smiled. "What do you want now?" She looked at the stars above and whispered, "A galaxy where no one has to be saved." They sat together in silence. 2 travelers who had started with nothing but a gift. One act of kindness that changed one life, and that life changed the galaxy. In distant villages, people told stories of how the Earthling bought a warrior not to own her, but to free her. Of how that warrior chose to rise, not with revenge, but with purpose. Of how together, they built something greater than any empire hope. And when young children asked, "Did Arka really exist?" their elders would smile and say, "Yes, she did. She was real. And so was the human who believed in her." Some said the stars shine brighter because of them. Others believed they still flew across the galaxy, helping those in need. But all agreed on one thing. Their story was proof that one person, one small gift, could change everything. A blade can cut, a gun can kill, but kindness can start a fire that lights the dark. And Arka's fire never died. The end.